Alrighty guys, welcome back to another video from our Gaming Arena Set Champs. We're going into round 4 where we've got a pretty cool deck to show today. One made by Alan. So we've got our Sapphire Steel deck here, which is not your typical ramp Sapphire Steel, but a bit more of an aggro list here. So let's have a look at some of the inclusions that Alan has decided to put in here. So first we see a nice one-drop curve there with your Robin Hoods, Mickey Mouse, and Captain Hook. Captain Hook sort of keeping a bit of that aggression and board control there, and Mickey Mouse having some good stats with the resist there, and can even be bumped a bit more with the Cogsworth as well. But no Shift Mickey we see here. And then as we get into our 2 and 3 drops, we start seeing more of the aggression. So the Calhoun being able to get 2 lore from challenging and banishing. The Smee and Alice also questing for a fair bit there. And then some more disruption cards to stop our opponent from clearing our board, like John Silver and Pete. And then a few bodyguards in our Pluto and Shenpo, which can really be good for setting down on turn 4 and 5 and protecting your Alice while she gives other characters ward and 1 lore extra. We see the Aurora as well, sort of a good combination with the Alice here. Alice can give ward to the Aurora, and then Aurora can give a ward to everything else. So you can protect all of your characters from being targeted, and then you can play your John Silver to prevent them from being challenged, as well as things like your Pluto and Shenpo, which will act as bodyguards for your other characters as well. And then we see some more of the aggressive lore gain in the Scrooge McDuck, and the Gantu, and even the Baymax. Baymax, not a card we've seen a lot of recently, but having the ability to play down and heal 2 damage and get 1 lore for each damage you remove, and then doing that also when it's quests. So you can get 2 lore when you play it, and 4 every time it quests potentially, and using it to keep those characters like your bodyguards nice and healthy to protect your other characters. Then we see a bit of targeted removal with the Baboom and Strength of a Raging Fire, just trying to keep some board control and making sure all your characters in play stay safe. We've got to grab your sword, and then the 3 McDuck mana. Having a huge 9 willpower and getting 2 lore every turn can definitely prove a bit of a challenge for some decks. We see that locations have sort of been out of the meta for a little bit, and as a result decks have sort of been cutting their answers, so bit of a surprise factor here that I'm sure has won Alan a couple of games. And then of course we have the Robin Hood with a similar ability to Calhoun, getting that extra lore, but just having a bit more stats in the willpower, and also getting a card when it's banished as well. And of course we better not forget the docks, which help for that aggressive card draw and playing down his hand to sail across to the finish line. Alrighty, and we have his opponent Oliver, who unfortunately I didn't get the deck list for, but we'll have a quick look at what he's playing in the round. So as always, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and leave a comment if you think any of the calls I made were wrong, or if you would do anything differently, and we will go ahead and look at this round. Alrighty, so welcome to round number 4. We see our players are taking their hands here, and looks like Oliver on the right is playing Amber Steel. Be interesting to see what sort of version. I did see a Gantu there, so maybe a bit more of an aggressive Amber Steel. Oliver gonna mulligan 7 away, and I think he is mulliganing again. Alan being a good sport and letting him take an extra mulligan for Oliver there. And I found out later that Oliver is actually 10 and is currently 2-1, I believe, so has definitely done well. He's continuing to mulligan again. I think he might have just drawn his 7 cards and said, I need a bit of a do-over, otherwise it won't be a fun game. So thankfully just making it a good game for the stream. Hopefully both players will get a good going from their deck. Alrighty, so we're going to have Oliver on the right going first here, inking the tower, and the perfect turn 1 card, the Daisy Duck. Definitely something you want to have in the aggro matchup. Now let's see what Alan has. Probably looking for one of his 1-drops. maybe the Captain Hook or the Robin Hood has a shift option. Something like that will definitely help to keep Oliver's board in check. There we see that Aurora coming down. Could be quite useful in this matchup. Alan has unfortunately missed the 1-drop here. Not something you want to see going second in the aggro matchup. And Oliver getting a second Daisy Duck down. We see the trigger putting the Sailor Alice into the hand. Fortunately, Oliver doesn't have the start of dreams with that third Daisy Duck, but definitely won't be complaining about this. And the hand looks like he's got that Rapunzel for later on, so if Alan wants to get something like a Calhoun down and start challenging, then Oliver would have a great time healing that off. We see Alan does get the hook there, and as we say it, down comes the Calhoun, so Alan definitely wanting to be pairing that with something like a Baboom, or even another character. So Oliver, Storm Rage on, Calhoun having that resist so it won't be banished. Oliver going to be drawing a card. Ooh, and as we say, the Baboom actually going to the bottom from that Daisy means Alan might not have access to it to help clear one of these Daisies next turn. And as Oliver is currently on 3 ink, going into that 4 ink turn, putting 3 damage on a Daisy, got to be a bit concerned about doing that. So I believe Oliver currently at 6 lore to Alan's 0. So the power of going first here, definitely being able to power ahead. I'm just having a think here. Oliver is putting on a lot of pressure. And we see the big Robin Hood here going into the ink. Definitely would have been nice to shift that one onto a small Robin Hood. Then he would have been able to start taking out some of these Daisy Ducks and ease off the pressure a little bit. Something like a Smee or another Calhoun would be good here for Alan. Definitely going second. You do have to start clearing some of this board, but it's just going to be playing down the Alice. And Alan correctly noting that the Rapunzel is very likely to be coming down next turn and not challenging with that Calhoun. And Alice we see coming in clutch with that keyword ward. So that's Zeus just going to have to take out the Calhoun, which you're not too upset about. The Alice does only have 1 strength, so not going to be putting too much pressure onto these Daisy Ducks, but another double quest for Oliver, soaring ahead to 10. And we do see in Oliver's hand he's actually going to start getting some of these characters down next turn and questing for even more. I would like to see next turn the Beast come down. You know, start drawing some cards. These aggressive decks tend to run out of cards pretty quickly. Unless, of course, you're Alan and your opponent's feeding you cards with the Daisy Duck. But normally, you go quite wide on the board and leave a bit of an empty hand. So Alan here just saying that he doesn't normally have this many cards in hand. And the Daisy has been giving him these cards. So he's got a lot of decisions available to him now. Let's see what he does with that. But yeah, hopefully Oliver gets an inkable card off the top so he can play this Beast. I think he's eyeing it up there in his hand. Interesting for Alan here. May need something like a double Calhoun or a Calhoun Smee just to keep some of this board under control. We see another Cogsworth with only 2 strength, not going to be doing much at the moment. And we do see a Scrooge come down, this massive 5/5. And then we're just going to see a quest from Alice. Oh, we do see the inkable. Let's see what Oliver decides to play. I hope it is the Beast here. Is just going to go for the Simba here. Another 2 cards for Alan go into his hand. So Oliver now up to 14. Definitely pushing ahead very quickly. Will Alan have a response here? He does have cards like Strength of a Raging Fire and Grab Your Sword. Will he be able to find them in time though? So I think he's definitely going to have to start taking down some of these Daisy Ducks with the Scrooge. But let's see if he has anything else. Maybe another big bodyguard like the Chien Po. Or even a Robin Hood to start pressuring this board a bit more. Currently the score sits at 2-14 Oliver's way, and definitely just showing the power of going first in this aggro matchup. Now we are playing the 2-game format, so Alan will have his turn to go first as well. But it's definitely not over yet. Oliver does currently have lethal on the board. But let's see what Alan has to say about that. Would you see the Smee come down? And something like a Calhoun would be quite good here. Yep, there we go. And we see Alan starting to pressure this board a bit more now. Oliver does have a Storm Rage on in his hand, so might be able to help deal with this Smee after it takes its damage next turn, but for the moment this board's looking a little bit scary for Oliver. I think Alan will definitely need some target removal in the near future though, otherwise Oliver will just run away with it. Next turn being able to quest for 4 and ready a card and play another card. So Alan actually going to need... Oh, we do see a Sing come in here. We're going to see that strength come down. So the strength of the Raging Fire going to be doing 5 damage to take out that Simba here. So Alan has found 1 of his target removal. We'll probably need another one before the end of the game, with this Daisy Duck questing for 2 going up to 16, and then the Beast Tragic Hero coming down. And we see a Smee as well. Would have liked to have held on to that one. And we do probably see the Beast going to come down now. And then quest for 2 up to 16 for Oliver. Another card adding to Alan's hand. I think this is probably the most cards he's going to have all day. I definitely would have liked to hold on to that Smee there, as I think Oliver was already at 5 because he played the Simba last turn. So not needing to ink that one to play the Beast. Hopefully this Beast stays on the board and Oliver's able to draw 2 cards next turn and hopefully find another 2 lore character to help close out this game. So I think for Alan here, if he doesn't have that strength, he's most likely just going to be challenging into this Daisy with the Calhoun and the Mickey. Obviously the Mickey going first, so he's able to get that 2 lore, and then questing out with the rest of the characters for 7, which would put him up to 11 and put the pressure on Oliver, who may actually need to win next turn. Ooh, and Alan playing the P tier. I think he might actually just out-aggro Oliver. Being able to banish this Daisy with the Calhoun, get 2, quest with the rest of his characters for 7, going up to 11. And another Alice, I think, will give Alan the ability to win next turn. And that means Oliver is going to have to deal with this board. Otherwise, he may lose the game. He does have something like the Storm Rage on in his hand, so we'll be able to deal with the Smee unless Alan correctly gives the Smee ward with the Alice. As we said, Alan's going to be challenging in with the Mickey and the Calhoun. Take out, get 2 lore. And then I imagine he's just going to be questing with the rest. And probably giving the ward to Smee, I would imagine. The only thing you're really worried about from Oliver is a Storm Rage on, and that won't be banishing the Scrooge. Actually questing with the 2 first for the Smee. I think you definitely want to be giving the ward to the lower willpower character, as all the high power songs will be banishing both characters, like in Along Came Zeus. Ooh, We do see a double Pete. Oh, we do see actually the Pete came down. I did forget about that, so I won't be able to play any actions anyway. And looks like Alan will have the required law on the board to win next turn, and Oliver getting to 18, so close to taking out this game, but unfortunately just couldn't close it. If he had that second daisy on turn 2, this definitely would have been a different game, but Oliver coming very close to winning this one, but just couldn't quite close it out. So we'll get into the next game and see how he goes going second. Alrighty, we're getting into game 2 now, round 4. Alan is up a game against Oliver. Let's see how he goes going first. After winning game 1, going second, you've got to feel pretty good about your chances. But as we know, these aggro decks need to have a good start. Otherwise they may be in trouble. So Oliver may be just keeping his cards here. Quite happy with them all. So it looks like Alan just going to mulligan 4 here. Definitely going to be wanting to look for that nice curve. Maybe something like a Robin Hood into a Smee into an Alice. And then going from there, I think going first you have a bit more liberty to just go wide with your board and maybe ignore your opponent's board for a little bit and just start questing out. I think Oliver's just gone for a little break, so we'll skip ahead to the game when it starts. Alrighty, so we are starting here. Alan going to be going first. Can't quite see his hand there. Hopefully something like a Robin Hood available to him. Okay, we do see inking the Robin Hood, so maybe he has something like... Actually going for the Mickey Mouse here. Oliver also inking a Robin Hood, but playing a Daisy. Definitely prefer to see that Daisy here. Quite a bit more aggressive questing than the Robin Hood. And especially if he doesn't have the shift Robin Hood. That can be quite good in this matchup going second, as you're able to start clearing some of the board and have quite a high amount of willpower. Alright, it'd be interesting to see if Alan has the shift Robin Hood in hand. If he does, I don't think he would have inked that one, but given that there's Daisy in Oliver's deck, it's quite likely that he does get drawn into it. There, as if predicting the future, there is the shift Robin Hood off the Daisy. And I think here, if Alan had access to that shift, which he would have if he played it instead of the Mickey, he could start taking down this board and really putting the pressure on by gaining it from Robin Hood's ability and also stopping Oliver from questing with the Daisy. However, we do see the Calhoun come down from Oliver. Definitely an important card in this matchup, going second to try and prevent your opponent from questing. Now we see a Mickey going into the Inkwell. And the Alice coming down. And as we see that Calhoun putting on the pressure, not wanting to quest, facing down this Calhoun. So Oliver, despite going second, is actually currently ahead on the law count. Has already inked this turn. Alan just going to let him take back his ink, realizing that that Rapunzel is quite important for the card draw. So we see here the Daisy could come down. I think I quite like seeing that. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a two drop to pair with it. That Baboon going to the bottom. Calhoun probably just going to quest, I imagine. I think going second, you don't mind if Alan starts trading into your Calhoun with the Smee. Although if this Smee does quest, you would quite like to hit into it with a Daisy perhaps and use that Rapunzel to start drawing some cards and healing. Alan probably going to be looking for something like that Pluto to start protecting his board a bit, whilst also taking down some of Oliver's characters. Ooh, and there we see that Calhoun. Definitely would have liked to have that a couple turns ago on turn 2, I think, after facing down this Daisy. But the Calhoun Mickey Mouse combo is quite deadly into these Daisy Ducks. Being able to take them out, gain 2 lore, and not take any damage because of that resist ability. Alrighty, we see a quest for 6 from Alan currently. Mickey also going to quest for 1. So it'll be interesting to see what Oliver does here. Probably need to take out that Alice here with the Calhoun and the Daisy, and then maybe bring in something like that Rapunzel just to heal the 1 damage. You don't get to draw too many. And there should be 1 damage on that Smee here, I believe. And here we are, we're just fixing that damage on the Smee now. It did have ward, so I wouldn't have been able to target it anyway. Alrighty, now we will see. I imagine the Calhoun will probably have to take out the Alice. It is just going to take out the Mickey. We'll get the 2 lore. And Oliver just taking the aggressive route. Going with a heavy quest here. But I think Alan currently next turn is questing for 8. Could go up to 9 if he decides to challenge the Calhoun into the Calhoun instead. Oliver just saying that Alan's board's not that scary at the moment, but I would disagree and think this is a very scary board. Currently questing for at least 8, but could be getting 9 next turn with the Calhoun, putting him up to 16, as well as whatever characters he can play this turn. And we see a Scrooge coming down as well, so Oliver now going to have to deal with this entire board except the Scrooge, so going to be quite the challenge for him next turn, I believe, especially once this Calhoun trades, which I believe it will. Then I imagine Alan's just going to quest for 7 here. Probably going to give ward to the Smee with the 1 damage on it, and the other one will be banished. Alan actually chooses the Scrooge again. I think the concern is that the Daisy Duck will just challenge into the Smee to take it out, and then the Rapunzel will heal. Doesn't look like Oliver's going to take that choice. He is wanting to play something else this turn. He's going to play the whole new world instead. Now, I would have liked to see the Daisies quest beforehand if they were going to quest, and I imagine they would be, since if it was going to challenge into the Smee, Oliver probably would have kept the Rapunzel just to get that heal and draw. That way, if the Daisies gave Alan some more characters, then they would have actually been discarded from the whole new world. Either way, he'd probably be questing with one of the Daisies. So definitely should have happened before. So Oliver here needs to take out the entire board here. Unfortunately, that Alice having ward, not going to be able to take it out. So it looks like Alan will have enough lore on board to take this game to winning 2-0 and shoring up his spot in the top 8 with a current record of 3 wins and 1 tie. So congratulations to Alan. Very cool deck. I think Oliver was very close in that first game going first, but Alan just having access to so many ward characters against the steel deck definitely proved to be too strong. Thanks for watching, everyone. We will get into the round 5 match very soon, and then looking forward to our top cut where we will see a few returns of some players that we've already seen so far. Stay tuned for the next video, and we'll see you then.